Been hyping it all week. We are getting to the final part of Ashley's interview with President Obama's longest-standing senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett. She knew the Obamas way before Barack had a political career. She met them in 1991 when a young Michelle Robinson was interviewing for a job with Jarrett at Chicago City Hall. Michelle was skeptical, so Valerie offered to take her to dinner.
Michelle agreed, but asked if she could also bring her fiancé, raising some eyebrows. The odd request led to a lifelong friendship and a historic presidency. In her book, Finding My Voice, Jarrett shares stories like this one about her life before and after that life-changing dinner. In the last part of our interview, we talked about the parts of her personal life that have impacted her the most. Are there things that you wish you could have done differently? Because you talk about...
Sure, every day, every single day we would go, why do we do that? Why do we do this?
I mean, because you say that, you wish that the administration could have done more with immigration or, other policies.
Yeah,
what do you think about most? Like, I wish we could have done more.
I'll say a few things. On the policy side, I wish we could have gotten comprehensive immigration reform done. We've always been a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And so we had a comprehensive plan that would have really worked out all of the problems with the system, and it had bipartisan support, and it was just a shame that we couldn't get the leaders in the Republican Party to move forward on it. I also wish that we had been able to get just the most sensible laws passed by Congress to keep guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves or to others.
Was it hard to write your story
Yes,
this honestly?
It was very hard. Yes, it was, oh my gosh, I can't even explain to you how hard it was. Well, first of all, I've never looked backwards. I've always looked forward. And this was the kind of, I turned 60 right after the election, which was earth-shattering in and of itself to me. But I thought it was a good, and I'd had the best job in the world. And I thought it was a good time to reflect and say, well, what did you really enjoy the most in your life? What were the challenges that you faced? How did you overcome them? In the hopes that people could see the resiliency that I had, and then they'd see that in themselves. So for example, I was doing an event a few weeks ago, and someone said to me, they were young and they wanted to get married. And I said, let me tell you something. I've never been lonelier than in an unhappy marriage. Do not think marriage will complete you and make you happy. You better be happy already. And then it's nice to have, it's icing on the cake, but if you're looking to that person to make you happy as I was, then you will be miserable. Doesn't make any sense. Like mine did not make any sense.
You're telling them bake the cake before you try and put icing on anything.
Exactly. Right. Bake the cake, let it rise, cool it off, and then put a little icing on the cake.
Having it all.
Having, all right.
Yeah.
So
Please tell everybody in the room.
There is always this question, can you have it all? No, because usually for women, having it all means doing it all ourselves. And when I was a young single mom, I prided myself on doing everything perfectly.
My favorite, you talk about making the baby food yourself.
What was I doing making baby food at 2 in the morning? That was ridiculous. And so some of it we put on ourselves. And I used to think, if I'm dangling by my fingertips, what must it be like for that working family, working parents who are working 2 shifts in a factory, minimum wage, do not feel comfortable with the childcare situation, have no safety net. And so a big piece of my life in terms of advocacy has been on behalf of those working families.
You faced a lot of negativity throughout your life for being a Black woman. What advice would you, Valerie Jarrett, today give young, shy Valerie and, Black women who see themselves in your story?
Well, it's so interesting you would ask that because the book was prompted by my daughter when she was 30. She interviewed me for StoryCorps, oral history, and the first question she asked me was, what would you tell a 30-year-old Valerie Jarrett? And I thought, well, you know what? I actually have a lot to say to that 30-year-old Valerie Jarrett. I was painfully shy. I was in a job that wasn't fulfilling. I was in a marriage that was a disaster, that I was trying to make work mightily and failing. And I had a baby, and I wanted her to look at me one day with some pride and some appreciation that I was doing something purposeful. And so I quit that fancy job and I worked for Harold Washington, the first African-American mayor of Chicago, who had just won re-election. And it is there that I really found my voice advocating on behalf of the citizens of Chicago.
What do you hope your, we'll say grandkids' kids, what do you hope that they read in the history books about you?
The sky should be the limit, and I would want my grandchildren to know that I worked hard to make our country fairer, more equal, more just, and that they would, and that I really cared about being a really good mother and friend and family member, and that you should be able to figure out how to do both.